Alright guys, we are going to take this final review sheet. I'm going to try to do it as fast as possible because it's a lot of problems and you can always pause it if needed, okay? But looking at this first one right here, all you need to do is combine like terms. P and negative 10p are like terms, so I'm going to put them together. And negative 5 and negative 9 are like terms, so I'm going to put them together. There's an understood 1 in front of that p, so 1 minus 10, if I type that in my calculator, I get negative 9p. Negative 5 minus 9, if I type that in my calculator, I get negative 14, okay? So my answer should be B, but I'm going to show you just a few times, so that way I don't have to do it every time, I just reference it. You can actually squirt blood on this one. So what that means is you can type it into your calculator, the original question, and the answer, and see if the red fills the blue line. So there's the blue line, and then here's the red. It comes through, and when it fills the red line, it means you've squirted blood, or a simplified or another way to write that same answer. So it's right. So I'm going to make a note for blood squirting. If I put a B on it, then you can squirt blood on it, okay? So your calculator will be very beneficial. Same one, 7 plus 5 times 7 plus 3n. You can also squirt blood on this one. You start off typically by distributing the 5 through. So 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 3n is 15n. And then you combine like terms. Those two are like terms, so you get 42 plus 15n, which is answer choice B. Okay, same thing. If you want to check it, don't want to get it wrong tomorrow, squirt blood for it, okay? Next one, we got 2m squared minus 6m. They're both divisible by 2. This one has 2 m's, that one has 1 m, so they both have 1 m in common. So I'm going to take out a 2 and an m. So if I took out a 2, I'm going to be left with a 1, and if I take 1 m away from 2 n's, I'm left with an m. Same thing, if I take out 2 from 6, well, 6 divided by 2 is a negative 3, and if I had 1 m and I don't have another m, I take that m out, there's no m's left. So when I rewrite it, you don't have to put that 1 in front of the m, but this is what I get. 2m times m gives me 2m squared. 2m times negative 3 gives me negative 6m. So it works out perfectly fine, which is going to give me answer choice C. Same thing, you can squirt blood on that one if you wanted to make sure you're right, okay? It's just the jeopardy. What can you take out of both of them? I could take out a 2m and I could take out a 2m. It left me with an m and a negative 3. Next one, which of the following is true? A coefficient is a number in front of x that is not a positive 4 in front of x. So it's not A. A constant is a number on the end without a variable. That's a negative 7, so it's not the same thing as a positive 7. A term is one of those pieces. There's not just a plain 4. So D is going to be a coefficient, it's negative 4. The number in front of x is negative 4. Okay, next one. To undo division, you're going to have to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. And that's going to give me 5 times 18 is 90, and these cancel and leave me with V. Okay, however, the nice thing is you can get the answer on this by storing it. 90 stow is x, and if you do x or V over 5, it gives you 18, which is what it should equal if you get the true or a balanced solution. So just plug them in until you get 18. There's nothing wrong with that. Next one, we've got negative 41 plus 6x equals 6 times x minus 6. You start off by cleaning it up or distributing. It's going to give you negative 41 plus 6x. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times negative 6 is a negative 36. I like to put my x's on the left side, so I'm going to get this 6x over there. It's positive, so the opposite would be subtracting 6x on both sides. Those cancel, and I'm left with negative 41 equals negative 36. This is a false statement that is never true. So if it's never true, there is no solution. There's nothing that's ever going to work for that right there. Okay, if you were on the test and you didn't know how to check that, what I would do is I would try negative 12 stow as x and type in negative 41 plus 6x and then type in 6 times x minus 6. Those are not the same answer, so you know that that's not the right answer. It didn't give me a balanced equation. Do it again, but now with a negative 6 stow as x. Go up, left side, go up, right side. Same thing, they're not the same. It didn't give me a balanced equation. So it's not -6, and if it's neither one of those, it definitely can't be all real numbers. Okay, the next one, same thing, solving equations. You have to do PEMDAS backwards. So undo the addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides, which leaves me with a squared equals 64. There's no multiplication division. The next thing would be the exponent. Okay, to undo a square, you square root both sides. So a is going to equal a positive or -8. Okay, your calculator will only give you the positive 8, but remember, when there's that little 2 in the exponent, it can't be one solution. There's 2 solutions always, okay? So 8 times 8 is 64, and -8 times -8 is 64. Same thing, if you want to double check this, I would do h stow x enter, type on the left side x squared plus 2, and make sure it gave me the right side of 66. And it does, so you're good to move on. So plug them in until you get what you're looking for if worse comes to worse. Okay, g equals -16x, and we're solving for x. We need to get rid of the -16. Well, it's multiplying with x, so the opposite would be to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by -16. I don't know what g divided by -16 is, so I'm literally just going to write it again. And that matches c. Negative, there's a negative. That one's positive. That one's obviously not positive. Okay? So that's how you can tell which one it is, because I know they wrote the negative out in front and we wrote it on the bottom, but it means the same thing. Okay, the next one, we got -6n is less than -6. Undo this multiplication right here by division. That cancels in. -6 divided by -6. Type that in your calculator. It's not 0, it's 1. And when you divide by a negative, you got to flip the sign. So the answer is going to be n is greater than 1. So neither one of those. And if you notice, that has a closed circle. However, that thing right there is not underlined. So we're going to pick this one, because when it's just a greater than or a less than symbol, it gets an open circle. Now, if it had a line underneath it, you would shade it in, but that one doesn't have a line underneath it. Less ink to not put the line, less ink to not color it in. Okay, on number 10, what would be the first step? Remember, anytime you're solving an equation, think of PEMDAS backwards. So there's no addition or subtraction, and next is multiplication division. So now look at this, I see a 2 is being multiplied by k squared. Opposite of multiply would be divide by 2. Okay, page 2. Looking up here, we're on graphing this line. It's intersecting at 2, the y-intercept. So I'm going to get rid of all the ones that don't have a y-intercept of 2. Okay, it is decreasing. So I'm going to get rid of all the ones that don't have a negative slope. So now you just need to see what is the rise over run. Down 3, right 5 would match option C. Okay, if you're in doubt and you didn't know if you were right, if you would type the problem, -3 over 5x plus 2, and look at the table or the graph, you can find 2 points and see if they match. You just got to check 2 points. So I know the point 0, 2 is on it, so trace 0, it's on this graph, and then I know the point 5, -1's on it. Trace 5, and that is 5, -1. Right 5, down 1 is 5, -1. So if you verify 2 points, you're good to go and you can move on. So if you forgot how to graph it, you can plug them in until you have those 2 points on your graph. Next one is a kind of hard one because you got to use algebra. There's no way you can get the answer by using technology. So you got to know how to do this. So same thing as last time. You're going to use PEMDAS backwards. So we're going to undo any addition or subtraction to y. 5x is really adding to 8y. See how it's separated by that minus sign? It's positive, so we're going to do the opposite, which is a negative, or subtract it. And you're left with -8y equals -5x minus 8. So we take care of that. Now we're on to multiplication division. -8 is multiplying by y, so to undo multiplication, you're going to divide by -8. And when you look at this, this is the rocket science. It's one fraction, but we're going to break it into 2 fractions. Okay, and now a negative divided by negative is going to be a positive 5/8. And -8 divided by -8, type it in your calculator, but you get +1, which is going to give you answer choice A. Okay, next one down here, you're going to have to find the slope. And on your formula sheet, the very first formula is right here called slope formula. So m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So here's x, here's y, here's x, here's y, first order pair, second order pair. So y sub 2 is negative 5 minus y sub 1, which is negative 1, over x sub 2, which is negative 1, minus x sub 1, which is 3. This right here, I would literally type in my calculator. So if I go right here to my calculator, I've got alpha y equals enter. Negative 5 minus 1, or minus negative 1, over negative 1 minus 3, which comes out to give you 1. So the slope is 1. So when I look through these answer choices, this one has a slope of 1 because the slope's the number in front of x. That one doesn't because it has a negative 3 in front of x. That one doesn't because it has a 4 in front of x. And that one doesn't because it has a negative 4 in front of x. So it's actually going to be A right there. Now, if you didn't know how to finish this, because you might not get that lucky where everything cancels out tomorrow, you would use y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. It can be found on your formula sheet, the third formula down right here, point slope. So when I plug it in, I'm going to do y minus my y sub 1 of negative 1 equals my slope of a positive 1, see, m equals 1, times x minus my x sub 1, which is 3. Negative times a negative is a positive y plus 1. 1 times x is x. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. I'm now going to solve for y by undoing the plus 1 by subtracting 1. And I'm left with y equals x minus 4, which also matches answer choice A. Tomorrow, what you should literally do is just type these answers in, x minus 4, and see if those 2 points are on the actual table. So 3, negative 1, it's on there, right there. And negative 1, negative 5, it is right there on it as well. If those 2 points are on it, you don't have to do all this algebra. You can skip straight to it. Okay? Girl Scouts have 100 boxes of cookies. She needs to sell, or she can sell 12 boxes per hour. That per tells you have a slope. So I'm going to check and pick a slope of 12. So the slope, remember, y equals mx plus b. I'm looking for the number in front of x to be 12. Didn't work for this one. Didn't work for that one. Okay, now if I am selling boxes, I'm actually losing those boxes, or they're actually leaving my hands and going to somebody else's hands. So I would have a negative slope because after 1 hour, hopefully I only have 88 boxes left. So I'm losing those boxes. I'm not gaining more. So just be careful and pay attention to details on that one. Okay, next one, independent variable and dependent variable. Paul can cut 4 yards per day. So first of all, independent variable is always going to, it's 95% of the time going to be the time. So I know it should be this one because cannot be determined is bogus. This one's bogus because that is a slope that says it's a variable. You can't have 2 measurements under 1 variable. But also, if you can't remember, the independent variable always follows the per, or remember the slope formula is y's over x's, and it said 4 yards per day, so we have yards per day, and independent variable goes with the x, so therefore dependent variable goes with the y. So it all lines up for us if you need it that way. But really, which one can stand alone? That's always going to be time, and it'll be time tomorrow in your test as well. Function versus not a function. Really, we care, do the x values repeat? And they do. There's 2 7s, so therefore it's not a function. However, if you can't remember that trick, graph them. Right 7 up 9, right 4 up 1, right 7 up 3, right 8 up 10. This right here, it fails the vertical line test, so therefore it is not a function. I meant to circle it, not X it out. Okay, next page, number 3. It says solve the system by graphing. So even though you can't see it, there's 2 lines there. Same line, they're on top of each other, they're crossing everywhere, so it has infinite solutions. Next one, you're going to graph it. So if I'm graphing this one, I'm going to start at 2, because that's my y-intercept, and then my rise of a run is a rise -1, run 3. So down 1, right 1, 2, 3, or up 1, left 1, 2, 3. And when I'm looking at this right here, notice it is a decreasing line, and I have a negative slope. That means it matches up. Okay, the next one, I'm going to start at -3, because the y-intercept's at -3, and my slope is -2 over an understood 1. So I'm going to fall 2, run 1, or rise 2, go backwards 1, rise 2, go backwards 1, rise 2, go backwards 1. And it gives me this right here, as I cannot sketch that at all. Okay, same thing, negative slope, and it's decreasing, so that looks good. This ordered pair is left 3, up 3, so that is negative 3, 3. X comes before Y in the alphabet. The X value is negative 3, and the Y was 3. If you wanted to, you didn't want to do all that work, you literally just go to your Y equals, type both of them in, negative alpha Y equals 1 over 3x plus 2 and negative 2x minus 3. You can graph it. And then you can go to second, calc. We're going to find the intersection, which is option 5, and press enter 3 times. And it will also give you negative 3, 3. So there's 2 ways you can get it. So don't miss that one, because technology will give you all the answers as long as you know how to press the buttons in. Next one, we got 2x minus 7y equals 14. Substitution is going to be the easiest for you. So we're going to replace y with its substitute of x plus 3. So we have 2x minus 7 times something equals 14. But we're replacing y with this right here, x plus 3. So we're going to solve it by distributing the negative 7. So I get 2x, negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21 and equals 14. These are like terms, so you get negative 5x minus 21 equals 14. Now we're going to work PEMDAS backwards, so undo the subtraction. So add 21 to both sides, and you're left with negative 5x equals 14 plus 21 is 35. And then we're going to undo the multiplication by dividing, and it's going to leave you with x equals negative 7. This one doesn't have a negative 7 at x. None of those have a negative 7 at x. So it's definitely going to be D, but I'm going to go ahead and finish out this problem. If you have y equals, I'm going to replace x with a negative 7. And negative 7 plus 3 is going to give you a negative 4, which matches that right there. Okay? Next one, we're going to solve by elimination. So what you're going to do is you're going to literally add those 2 pieces together. So I'm going to rewrite them for a second. Oops. That's okay. So when I add them together, those cancel. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6y. Negative 10 plus 16 is a positive 6. I'm going to solve for y, so I'm going to undo the multiplication by dividing by 6. And y is going to equal 6 divided by negative 6, which is at negative 1. So this one has a y value of negative 1. This one does not. This one does not. And it can't be infinite if we know that the y value is going to be negative 1. So it's going to be a, but I'm going to go ahead and finish it. I'm going to plug it back into the other equation. So 4x minus 4, and then I'm going to replace y with a negative 1, and I'm going to solve for x. Negative 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4, so 4x plus 4 equals 16. Undo the addition by subtracting 4 on both sides, and it gives you 4x equals 12. And undo the multiplication by dividing by 4 on both sides, it's going to give you x equals 3. So now this one's nice because even if you forgot how to work it out, you can plug the answers in to make sure you get the right answer. So the first equation is negative 4. I'm going to replace the x with what I know the x should be, which is 3. Minus 2 times replace the y with what I think the y should be, which is negative 1. And it gave me negative 10. So I've checked one, but you got to check them both. 4 times 3 minus 4 times the y value that I know should be negative 1. And I got both negative 10 and 16, which came from the problem, so they both check out great. So plug them in until you finally get to that check out fine if needed. Okay, number 21, we're going to find the y-intercept. I would not do anything other than literally plug it in my calculator. So here is y equals, and I'm going to do 3 times 2 to the x power minus 5. And if I get the graph, I just want to see where it's crossing the y-axis at. Looks like about right here, but if you do trace 0 enter, it'll tell you it definitely crosses at 0, negative 2. Horizontal asymptote is where it's flattening off. It's going to be the end number, but if you look right here and I graph it, it gives us a nice pretty picture that that's in fact where it's flattening off. Everything's staying above that red line. Same thing, it started off with a y equals negative 5. So it's going to be a Don't pick just the plain numbers because horizontal asymptote has a y in it. It always has to start with y equals. Okay, page 4. We're going to write the compound interest formula for this expression right here. And I'm going to point off to you the compound interest formula is right here on your formula sheet. Do not try to memorize it. Literally, just write it down from what we have on our formula sheet. So we need an A, a P, an R, an N, and a T. So write the compound interest formula if you deposit $7,000. So a deposit is the same thing as a principal at 3%, but we got to change it to a decimal. So either move it twice to the left or do 3 divided by 100, and it'll give you 0.03. And see, if you move it twice, you also get that same thing. And it's compounded quarterly, so that means it's going to be checked 4 times. So when I plug this in, I'm going to replace P with what I know it is, and I'm going to replace R with what I know it is, and I'm going to replace N with what I know it is. And that matches up on answer choice A. All right, number 24, identify the end behavior. What are the ends doing? Look at the arrows. They're going down. Going down is the same thing as decreasing. So I'm going to pick A because both ends are decreasing. All right, both ends are decreasing. They should both decreasing. That technically means the right side is decreasing, the left side is decreasing, but that's okay. And tomorrow will be a quadratic. It's either both up or both down. Okay, number 5, identify the domain and range. I told you in class the domain's always going to be all real numbers unless it's a word problem, okay, for this class alone. So it's not B and it's not C because those start off with Y's, not all real numbers. This is the minimum, and it's at -4, -5. So all those y values are bigger than -5, so it gets a greater than symbol. Y's are bigger than -5, so we're going to use a greater than symbol. Okay? Rewrite in standard form. You're going to set up a box. We've got 5n plus 3 is the first one, and 8n minus 6 is the second one. 8 times 5 is 40, and there are 2 n's. 8 times 3 is 24, and there's 1 n. 5 times -6 is -30, and there's 1 n. -6 times 3 is -18, and there are no n's. 40n squared is positive. 24n is positive, so it gets a plus sign. -30n minus 18. I'm going to combine the like terms, which is going to give me 40n squared minus 6n minus 18, which matches answer choice B. And this is another one you can squirt blood on, so I'm going to circle a B around it. You shouldn't miss this one. It will fill, if you graph both of them, it will squirt blood on this one. Okay, page 5, we're so close to being done. Identify the zeros. You should just literally start typing it in your calculator. And 7 times x minus 1, x plus 4, and graph it. The zeros are where it crosses the x-axis at. So if I type in trace -7, notice it doesn't have a 0. So if you do this, it will keep giving you bogus answers. Trace 7 doesn't have a 0. Trace -1 doesn't have a 0. Trace 1 enter, oh, it has a 0, and trace -4 enter, it has a 0. Okay, so those work out perfectly. The next one, which is the following, is a factor. You're going to need an x, a box, and a t. Okay, so the top of the x is 20 times x squared, first times the last. Bottom is a -9x, the middle term. Factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. First term is x squared, last term is 20, and the bottom of the x is negative, so the right hand side is negative, and 1 times -20 isn't positive 20, so we're going to make the left side negative as well. Those two add up to -9x, so they're like my magic numbers. These two have an x in common, these two have a -5 in common, these two have an x in common, and these two have a -4 in common. So now look at it like this. X minus 5 matches that factor right there. So when it says a factor, you're going to only find half of the answer. So literally just match up the one that is very similar to it. Now I'm going to tell you this is a pretty hard question. Tomorrow, when in doubt, if you do x squared minus 9x plus 20, and you graph your answer to A, your answer to B, your answer to C, and your answer to D, you will notice very quickly that only one of them crosses through at the 0. Remember, when you're in factored form gives you the zeros, just like off of this previous problem. And the black right here runs through the 0. That's the x-intercept, okay? So I would pick whatever you typed in for the black one, which is x minus 5. So that will match up for you. The next one, we need a reflection over 5 to the x. So what you're going to do is you're going to just type those in until you get what you're looking for, all right? So if I type in my first one as 5 to the x, that's what the problem gave me. And let's try answer choice B, 5 to the negative x. So when you graph it, you want to see that it's flipped over the y-axis, okay? And that's where they flipped it. So there's the original, which is blue, and the red, it's definitely flipped, okay? If you fold that on the y-axis, it will kind of like flip over it, okay? So 29 is fine. You just get it in your calculator until you get what you're looking for, okay? Next one, we're going to type it in as well. The original is 3 to the x, and the next one is 3 to the x plus 4, and we're going to graph it and see what happens. Make sure you type that plus 4 not in the exponent because it's not on the paper. All right, if you do a plus 4, notice the asymptote shifted up 4 units. It got all pushed up, so that's a translation or a vertical translation. Okay, the next one, what's happening each time to get to the next piece? And remember, to be geometric arithmetic, you got to do the same thing with the same number. And they are adding negative 11 each time. Check it for all of them, because if not, it may not be arithmetic, okay? So 99 plus negative 11 is 88, plus negative 11 77, 66, 55. Since we're adding the same number each time, it's arithmetic. Arithmetic is adding, geometric is multiplying. Okay? Last one, the explicit formula for 243, 81, 27, and 9. What's happening each time? Well, it appears they are dividing by 3. However, you got to say it in terms of multiplication, which is multiplying by 1 over 3. So times 1 over 3, 9, and etc. So it's definitely geometric, so it's not going to be B, which is arithmetic because it has a plus sign, or D, which is arithmetic because it has a plus sign. Now, I know the common ratio is 1/3 because that's what I multiplied in my calculator. However, let's just pretend you couldn't remember. If you type in the answer choices exactly how you see them, and look at the table, it will tell you which one generates the right one. Is the first term 243? Yep. Second term 81? Yep. Third term 27? Yep. Fourth term 9? Yep. So it's not generating the same sequence as above, then you would mark it out and move on, but C is. Whew, that was your entire final. Every answer or review, every answer was answered for you. My biggest suggestion is if you have issues, send me an email or pause